my fellow readers. My name is Greg and this is Ghost Readers in the Sky. And today I'm looking at the event June on the Range, where we spend the month of June reading Westerns, watching Westerns on film, television, and doing as much Western-y stuff as we can. The first novel I want to talk about is from Zane, published in 1916, called The Border Legion. In this novel, Jim Cleave and Joan Randall are young people in their very early 20s who are courting. They have a spat. Jim says, well, I'm just going to leave here and I'm going to go become a bandit. And then Joan later decides she ought to follow him and try to stop him from a life of banditry. And the bad part is that Joan runs into the bandits before Jim does. And so she gets kidnapped by the bandits. And eventually Jim finds them. They are trying to not let anyone know that they have any kind of a relationship. All the time, the bandits are planning to do bandity things in bandity ways, especially once they hear about a gold strike and a new gold camp, and they make plans to steal a bunch of gold. And it goes on from there. The actions of the characters sometimes confused me. But as I was reading it, I was confused. But afterward, as I was thinking back on it, I realized there's really a lot of negotiation here about what masculinity is in particular, femininity as well, but mostly what is the right thing to do to be masculine. How does a man behave, and how does that change around women and around other bandits and around in various different situations? And you get the extremes from the bandit who is fully self-centered, who only wants what he wants. If he wants gold, that's all he cares about, and he'll do anything to get it. All the way up through Jim, who's starting to, from the very beginning, is regretting his whole idea of becoming a bandit, and everything in between. And watching these various men negotiated, and it's told from Joan Randall's point of view. So as she sees both positive and negative changes in these men, it makes for a really interesting psychological, emotional rendering of who these people are. And I wasn't necessarily catching that as I read it. I really thought more about it afterward, and it's really added to my appreciation of the novel. The novel itself is a great Western. It's got a great plot. It is set in Idaho, which is where I live. And even though I recognize that it's completely fictitious, there are enough things about the southeast corner of Idaho that make sense to me. And there really are things that, Bear Lake exists. The first gold strike was not in that area of Idaho. It was a completely different place. And for me, it was really fun to sort out the fictional Idaho from the real Idaho. The book is called The Border Legion. That's the name of the outlaw band because they operate on the southern border of Idaho. So between Idaho as it borders Utah to the south. It's a very good book. I'd recommend it. It's made me think a lot afterward, which is always good. The next novel I read this week, well, this is a twofer because I read the novel and I watched the film. This is Hombre. The book was written by Elmore Leonard, published in 1961. The film was made in 1967, starring Paul Newman and Richard Boone. This is my copy of Hombre by Elmore Leonard. It's a library edition and it's large print, which I appreciate these days. It certainly makes it easier on these old eyes. But yeah, very nice large print library copy of Hombre by Elmore Leonard. This is the story of a stagecoach ride with 7 or 8 passengers who had come from very different backgrounds. Some of them are good people, some of them are not so good. Many of them have some moral ambiguity. And then they get robbed, and how they deal with that and how they try to save themselves and keep the gold or the money that they have is really fascinating, and Elmore Leonard just keeps you on the edge of your seat. I thought the book was fantastic in every way. The film was also quite good. The plot is basically the same in the film, which stars Paul Newman. Richard Boone plays the bad guy, and wow, is Richard Boone a great bad guy or what? They changed some of the characters around a little bit. They changed some ages. They combined some characters. They add some characters. But still, there's a stagecoach full of people that gets robbed. And all of the characters with the traits that the characters had in the book are all present in the film. They're just spread out a little differently, which did not, in my mind, detract from the film. Really, really good film. I liked it a lot. I liked the book a lot. Hombre, Elmore Leonard. The other film I watched was a Hopalong Cassidy B movie from 1935 called The Eagle's Brood. I don't know why. There is a bandit in Mexico who has raided across into the U.S. a number of times and is definitely wanted and can't cross the border without getting arrested. His son, daughter-in-law, and their son, his grandson, are traveling in America, and they're carrying gold or money, or I can't even remember, but they get robbed. The boy is not there when the robbery happens, and the robbers not only take the money, but they kill the parents. And so the boy is hiding. Somebody who knows the grandfather, El Toro, writes to him and says, your grandson's here, your son and daughter-in-law have been killed. You need to come get your grandson. He tries to come into the U.S. Hopalong Cassidy finds him and says, no, you go back to Mexico and I'll find your grandson and bring him in. I really like the film version of Hopalong Cassidy. It's played by William Boyd. He comes across as he's not really an elder, but he's the experienced. He's the battle-hardened guy on the range who has the experience and who has a lot of knowledge and wisdom that has come from that experience. And his interaction with a young kid, who I just want to call Jimmy, although I don't think that's his name, but a young 20-year-old brash cowhand who's always ready to just dive into the action. And watching the two of them together is really entertaining because they come at problems from such different places. And then for Poetry Thursday, I read a poem by Baxter Black called Anonymous End. It is from this book, Cactus Tracks and Cowboy Philosophy. So Baxter Black, yeah, there he is. Baxter Black, for many years, had a spot on National Public Radio here in America, NPR, where sometimes he would give us a poem, a lot of times he would tell a story or just have other prose thoughts, and that's what this collection is for the most part. It is transcripts of the shows that he did on NPR over the years. And then the other thing I wanted to mention from a poetry perspective is that the great cowboy poet Wallace McRae passed away this week. He was 89 years of age, and he was a working cattleman in Montana over by Forsyth, Coal Strip, over in that area. He wrote funny poems, he wrote really serious poems, and everything in between. And he's just a great poet who we will miss having around. And that covers June on the Range 2025, week 4. 2 books, 2 films, a poem. I think it was a pretty productive week. We're just about to the end of June, so I'll do one more of these to wrap up everything that I read in June for June on the Range. Thanks so much for watching today. I appreciate your support. I appreciate that those of you who watched all the way to the end, I always do appreciate that. Thanks for your attention, for your time. Till next time, my name is Greg, and this is Ghost Readers in the Sky.